Have you ever really wondered what makes someone like Elon Musk tick? I mean, what's the internal operating system looking like? Not the guy you see in interviews, but the raw, unfiltered code that drives him and his companies. Well, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to try and decode what you could call the Elon OS, the core principles he uses for, well, pretty much everything.
In this quote, it just sets the tone perfectly, doesn't it? It's not about positive thinking or negative thinking, it's just a raw, relentless focus on execution. That's not a philosophy, that's a command. And the entire system, his entire OS, is built on this one simple idea. Make it happen, period.
So to really get this, we have to start at the bottom, with the core code. These are the foundational beliefs that are just always running in the background of every single move he makes.
And this, right here, is the absolute bedrock of his whole approach. First principles thinking. You see, most people reason by analogy. They look at how other people built rockets or cars, and they just try to do it a little bit better. He doesn't do that. He asks the most basic questions possible. What is a rocket actually made of? What do those raw materials cost on the open market? And by doing that, he can basically rebuild an entire industry from the ground up, completely ignoring how it's always been done.
This slide kind of captures his whole worldview. For him, there are only two types of rules in the universe. In one bucket, you've got the laws of physics. They're absolute, non-negotiable. You can't break them. And in the other bucket, you have everything else. Every industry standard, every government regulation, every so-called best practice. To him, those are just recommendations. And every single one of them is meant to be questioned.
The second piece of that core code is speed. But we're not just talking about moving fast. It's, and this is his phrase, a maniacal sense of urgency. This isn't just a goal, it's an ironclad operating principle. The right time to solve a problem isn't tomorrow. It's not even later today, it's now. In his world, if you're slow, you're already losing.
Okay, so you have this core code, right? Question everything and move incredibly fast. But how does that translate into actually doing anything? Well, he has this repeatable process for it, a 5-step plan he just calls the algorithm. This is the playbook.
And here they are, the 5 commandments. Seriously, people say he will literally recite these steps in meetings like a mantra. Question, delete, simplify, accelerate, and then, only at the very end, automate. And believe me, the order here is everything.
And you have to understand just how seriously he takes step number 2, delete. It's ruthless. He pushes his teams to delete parts and processes until it actually hurts, using this principle right here. His logic is, if you don't find yourself having to add some things back later, it means you played it way too safe. You didn't delete enough. As his engineers like to say, the best part is no part.
And this is exactly why the order of the algorithm is so important. Our natural instinct is to jump to step 3, to take a part that already exists and try to make it better or faster. But the algorithm forces you, first, to ask if that part should even exist at all. I mean, why would you waste your brain power optimizing something you should have just thrown in the trash to begin with?
All right, so we've got the core code and we've got the execution algorithm. But what happens when this super intense operating system has to interact with, human beings? Well, that's the hardcore interface, and it's just as blunt as the rest of the system.
Let's just be direct about this, because he sure is. The mission comes before everything. It comes before feelings. It comes before being liked. His whole point is that you're not there to make friends, you're there to demand excellence from yourself and from everyone around you to get the job done.
In fact, and this is where it gets kinda counterintuitive, he actually sees too much camaraderie as a danger. Why? Because if you're worried about hurting your friends' feelings, you might soften the feedback. You might avoid the brutal honesty that's needed to find the flaw that could blow up the rocket. And as he'd say, physics doesn't care about your feelings.
So these are his marching orders for leaders. You're expected to be a frontline general, not some manager in an ivory tower. You need to know every single detail of your corner of the business, or he'll lose it. The feedback is always going to be hardcore, but it's supposed to be about the work, not the person. And maybe most importantly, he's right there in the trenches with you, never asking for something he isn't doing himself.
But look, running an operating system this intense, it has a cost, a very real cost. There are some extremely high system requirements. And yeah, you could say there are a few bugs in the system too.
This hardcore culture, it's not an accident, it's a feature. It's totally by design. New hires are literally warned to prepare for a level of intensity that is probably way beyond anything they have ever experienced in their lives. And he absolutely leads from the front on this. He doesn't just ask for this kind of intensity, he lives and breathes it. We're talking working all night, sleeping on the factory floor. He does whatever it takes, and he expects that exact same level of insane commitment from his team.
So yeah, to put it lightly, all those normal ideas about work-life balance, they just don't really compute in this OS. He's been very open about it. The amount of time he works makes having normal relationships incredibly difficult. It's a huge, huge sacrifice.
And this quote from one of the biographies, wow, it really gets to the heart of the mindset, doesn't it? The price you pay for this level of performance is pain. And to survive, let alone thrive inside the system, you have to have an almost unlimited capacity to endure it.
So why? Why would anyone do this? Why endure all that pain? Why run this incredibly demanding system? Well, it all circles back to the ultimate mission, the grand purpose that fuels the entire OS.
You see, in his mind, the intensity is justified because the goals, they're not just about building another company. His projects are framed as having, and this is the phrase he uses, epoch-making significance. He has this deep-seated belief that progress is not a given. Humanity has to fight like hell for it.
And this slide really shows you the scale of that thinking. For SpaceX, making a fully reusable rocket isn't just a cool engineering feat. It's the one thing that decides whether we stay stuck on one planet or become a multi-planetary species. This isn't about quarterly earnings. It's framed as being about the long-term survival of consciousness itself. And in the end, it really feels like it all boils down to this one single organizing principle. This is the filter that he seems to run his entire life through. It's not just about doing something important. It's about finding something so big, so audacious, that it probably won't happen at all, unless you're the one to do it.
Which really just leaves us with one big question, doesn't it? He said it himself, I am wired for war. And when you look at this entire operating system, the brutal urgency, the hardcore culture, this insane capacity for pain, you get it. It's an OS built for a fight. And it really makes you wonder, to do something that truly changes the world, is this what it takes? Do you have to be wired for war?